Thank you for that kind introduction. And thank you, Adam, and your team for inviting me to be here. My name is Thione Niang. I am originally from Senegal. I live in Washington, D.C. Um, a few years back, in the 50s towards the 60s, there was young people like me who grew up in this continent and who saw that something needed to be done to move Africa in a different generation, in a different direction. Those were just young people who were dreaming that someday they will be able to liberate their countries. In this great nation, we have our father, Madiba Nelson Mandela, who at a very young age joined the ANC movement at 26 years old. Not very far from here in Ghana, Nkrumah was just 35 when he joined the Pan-African movement. In countries like Singapore, Lee Kuan Yew took over the country after Malaysia separation in Singapore at 36 years old. In the United States, Thomas Jefferson wrote the Constitution of the United States at age 35. Why am I saying these ages? There is something in young people always being at the center stage of change. And they've done what they were supposed to do to give me an opportunity here in Africa today to challenge the status quo, but also in the United States for me to be where I am there today and coming back home to make a difference is because somebody has made a sacrifice. Somebody has done something to create a space for me today. So for young people like me in our generation today, our calling is not to liberate Africa as Nelson Mandela done it, as Nkrumah, as Leopold Sédar Senghor, and etc. But our calling today is to make sure the inequality in this continent, and the gaps, the poverty, and the lack of opportunities of our young people are closed. And nobody is going to come to do it for us. We got a role to play, young people in the diaspora, but also young people in the continent. This is why Akon and I, my partner, and Samba Bachili got together in 2013 and launched Akon Lighting Africa. Why Akon Lighting Africa? Because I grew up in Kaolack, Senegal, as he said, in a family of 28 brothers and sisters in poverty, sometimes 4 days in the house with no food. These was the conditions I grew up on, where my grandfather used to wake us up very early in the morning so we can study or do our homeworks that we can finish the night before because the sun went down just a little early. And in 2013, when I invited Akon to come to the White House, through my nonprofit organization, I do global leadership program, mentoring young people on entrepreneurship every year in Washington. I bring 200 young Africans there. And Akon was the special guest. And he was very inspired of the work that we're doing. So Akon asked me, what do we need to do to help the continent? And I remembered those days where our house, we never had electricity growing up, till I went to America at 22. I said, I want to start somewhere in energy. Because I know today, 600 million Africans are living in the dark. And if we don't do something, nothing will happen. If you go home tonight and you switch the light at your house and it doesn't come, you'll probably be shocked, because we are the fortunate ones. But I'm here to tell you that I've traveled around the continent from north to south, in 5 villages everywhere in the continent. And there are those people who just will never know what electricity is about. Forget about internet and connectivity. They just cannot even have, a light at home so their children can be able just to study. How those young people can compete with the young men and women who are sitting in Washington, D.C., in Boston, in Singapore, and in France, and Europe, and other countries. We cannot talk about the development of Africa until we tackle the education issues and accessibility to energy. This is the cornerstone of our development. Because these young people will never be able to compete internationally. This is why we're investing in energy. And it's been challenging. It's been fascinating at the same time, as our lives has changed throughout this process. Today, we are in 17 countries in the continent and aiming to be in 44 countries in the next 5 years. 5,400 young people, young Africans are helping us. We hired to work for us. And all of them went through our academy. In the first year, we went to China because we have a $1 billion line of credit to do this work. In every country we come in, we come with our pre-financing. When we went to China, our partners told us that every country we're going to bring 100 to 200 people to do the work. I said to Akon, we cannot do that. We need a country manager and a quality control manager, and the rest, they help us train our young people, that they will help us to install these lights and do the maintenance. Because last year, 1,500 young Africans died on the water, trying to cross between Morocco and Libya to go to Europe looking for opportunities. If we don't give these young people opportunities, who will? From that meeting, we launched the first solar academy in the continent in Mali. And now we are training these young people who are doing, when they finish, we're hiring them directly to do the work for us throughout the continent. This work is important. And I know many of you in your area, you're doing the work that's necessary to help elevate the continent. It is unequal. We talk about always growth and GDP growth. And when I go around these villages, I'm not sure if these people feel the growth and the GDPs of what's happening in these huge conferences, in our offices. The majority of Africans do not feel it. And it's our responsibility, us Africans, and our partners in it, because we need everybody to be able to bring this continent where it needs to be. But even through our partners, it has to be now a new generation that will say, you know what, this partnership will have to be a win-win partnership. Because somehow, in where I live in America, America partnered with the rest of the world, but America comes first. And somehow in Africa, we are a little shy, especially our governments, to put Africa first. And this belongs to Africans to do that. So all of the young Africans that are here today, we have a responsibility. In years from now, another generation will come, and questions will be asked. And we will have to answer some questions to what we have done to make life better for those young people that will come and will be sitting to where we are today. I don't know what will you answer, but I know what I want to answer, that I want that Africa to be for them. I want an Africa where every young person will have the same opportunity like my son El Haja in the United States. Can go to the same school and find a computer that they can connect to, have access to internet that we're talking about today. Be able to build applications. Be able to build those computers, Mr. Minister, that you're talking about, not for them to build it for us to bring it here, but our children here in Africa to build it for us and for our kids. This is the Africa that I want. And this is the Africa that we're working on every single day, and we're inviting each and every one of you, especially the diaspora that are watching. Because everything we've learned around the world, it's time that we bring it so it can benefit our people. How much is given, much is required. And I will close to say to you that every generation at one point has to ask, what is your calling? The most pressing questions. What will you leave behind and how you will be remembered? Not only the generation, but each and one of us should answer that question. What will we leave here when we leave Earth that will be remembered? Because Nelson Mandela, from this great country, we know what he represents. Forever he will live here. People like Dr. King, who's fought through the civil rights movement, has allowed people like Barack Obama and myself from Kaolack to do what I'm doing in America today. But who are we and what we going to leave? So Africa will be not only be for numbers and statistics and a place where we come and do business and get back to the plan and take everything back out, where our children cannot even have a clean water to drink, cannot have access to electricity, cannot have decent education, cannot have the minimum that is needed to be able to compete globally. If we cannot answer these questions, tomorrow when generations ask, we will fail them. So thank you for listening, and thank you for being here. God bless you all. Thank you.